the attempt to push back on this whole critical race theory thing. And, this is the media landscape has changed so that this stuff doesn't have the salience that it used to have, but it still is highly, highly problematic. What's interesting is this critical race theory stuff. Somebody drew a parallel with the Tea Party thing. This is the way that they're going to try and get their people out to vote in the off-year election.
That too. Yeah, and that plus these anti-mask things.
And the anti-mask things. And they're not really that distinct of a crowd, it seems to me.
Well, because they've kind of molded the mask thing into it's all about my children and how dare you indoctrinate my children or suffocate my children or abuse my children. It's
absolutely.
Just as a projection of their own anxiety that's being fed to them by
a lot of these, speeches we hear happen at the same venues, right? At school committee meetings.
It's all one and the same.
So, and now I know the people who are worried about the authoritarianism and the free speech are going to be all over this in a big, big way. And I don't want to step on anybody's shoes. I know they're out there and they're going to be really upset about what's going on in Texas in terms of the authoritarianism about basically deputizing people to uphold the law by suing abortion providers. I'm sure they're going to be crazy about that.
Right, after all those segments they did on BDS.
And yes, yeah. and on top of which you're going to see the about the new law that they passed in terms of making it very hard to vote. And then this, I'm sure. Back in late July, there was a Texas school board meeting, and a guy got up to talk about the Colleyville Heritage High School principal, guy named James Whitfield. And the guy who got up, do we have his name? I'm not sure if I don't remember his name, but he got up there and he started complaining that this Whitfield was promoting the conspiracy theory of systemic racism. This conspiracy theory that there is systemic racism in this country, least of all Texas.
What are they conspiring towards? Well,
it's just like you're out of your mind that there's systemic racism. That happened in July. The school board was like, okay, you're not supposed to directly attack anybody, and you're charging this black principal of that. Well, a month later, a little bit more, over the past week or two, the district suspended that same principal, a guy named James Whitfield, without explanation. This is according to Whitfield, who told the Washington Post yesterday. The decision followed, according to the Washington Post, several weeks of controversy during which Whitfield tried to publicly clear his name. Students turned out to defend their principal while parents demanded his termination. Now, first off, I don't even know why anybody has to defend their name for teaching about systemic racism.
And I just love the crystallization of the dynamic I talked about earlier. The students defend the principal and the parents want him fired. Why is that? I mean, it's like, I thought it was all about indoctrinating the children. They don't know any better, I guess.
And the guy who made this charge was a guy named Stetson Clark. He was a former school board candidate, apparently. Whitfield said in a Facebook message, "I was not given any clear reasoning behind the decision to suspend me. I was not given a timetable regarding further steps. I was simply told it was in the best interest of the district." So here's the Whitfield also happens to be the first black principal. I'm sure this has nothing to do with it, to run Colleyville Heritage High School. Here is this is 5 days after the meeting, where in July, as people were yelling in the audience, "Fire him," and applauding. He wrote in a post, and I feel bad for this guy because he must realize, like, he's in a very sort of like well, that there's a huge amount of racists who are around.
And he's got to just be so careful here.
He writes in his Facebook post a couple days after that meeting, "I can no longer maintain my silence in the face of hate, intolerance, racism, and bigotry." He said, "I am not the critical race theory boogeyman. I am the first African-American to assume the role of principal at my current school. In its 25-year history, I'm keenly aware how much fear this strikes in the heart of a small minority who would rather such things go back to the way they used to be." A few days later, according to the Post, because remember the issue is here, you're poisoning the minds of our children about this idea of this conspiracy theory of systemic racism in this country.
Which is basically the same as critical race theory. It's all one and the same.
Indeed. A few days later, a parent complained to the district about a photo that this guy Whitfield had posted on his social media. And if you have children in the room,
not safe for work.
It showed him and his wife, who is white, in an embrace celebrating their wedding anniversary. And she asked in an email to the district, quote, "Is this the Dr. Whitfield we want as an example for our students?" The district came to the defense of Whitfield. Oh, wait, no, I'm sorry. The district asked Whitfield to remove the photo from his Facebook feed because it shows him in an embrace with his wife.
And they may even be kissing close to
To remove the photo to avoid further controversy. What? He's married?
Critical miscegenation theory.
Exactly.
I mean, we joke, but it's just...
No, that's all this is. That's all
disgusting.
the CRT stuff has been. It's the polite way to launder just bigotry through mainstream channels.
It is just, yes, it is full-on racism.
And do we
going
have
from
the
the
name?
solid form to the, vapor form.
Yeah.
That's all.
And do we have the name of that parent who wrote in to complain about
we have
his
her name?
personal Facebook? No, I mean, the point is we don't, right? Right. She gets to hide behind the cloak of anonymity, or he, I think they said it was a woman, gets to hide behind the cloak of anonymity and just throw these disgusting racist grenades basically because he's black and he's kissing a white woman. And that probably really just got her to feel things she didn't necessarily understand.
What's also is amazing is this is why you shame people like this, because the idea, she is so unaware or so unabashed in her racism that it didn't even occur to her, I'm writing to the school board and saying that this man should not be able to post a picture on his Facebook that he has a white wife. I mean,
she better not have any photos on her social media with her husband.
And people have to understand too, when you come out and do a measured dive into critical race theory and whether it's appropriate right now, you must be aware, and I'm not saying that people should or should not do this, but you should be aware that you are legitimizing this type of thing.
It's one side says this, one side says that, and we don't know.
And I think it's very possible to have a nuanced, sensitive debate about critical race theory. But understand when you're doing it at this time that you need to take account for the broader context in which you're introducing this stuff. And you cannot deny it. You cannot deny it. It exists. This debate exists. You can come in and say, I'm going to do a nuanced debate about the validity of critical race theory. And it just so happens I'm doing it now. If you're just doing it because you find it interesting, be aware of what you're adding to.
What's interesting about it?
Well, no, it may be interesting.
Look, there's a critique about particularly like Robin DiAngelo's The Cartoon of sort of corporate anti-racism, and that's like an issue.
Well, I share that critique.
Right, of course. But again, like if you just emphasize that critique in the context of this CRT panic, then you're helping that panic.
Yeah.
This is what Sam Harris did during the huge debate about torture in this country.
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, let me take a nuanced take about torture. Really? Really? Is that what you're doing? It's just so coincidentally. Like, it's just happening right now. Like,
Or a nuanced take on Muslim violence.
Like, I mean, like, I don't know. There's a difference of, I'm going to double park my car in front of this hydrant right now and run in and grab something versus, hey, there's a fire across the street and I'm just going to double park my car in front of this hydrant. Is it the same act? Is it the same act? It's not. And to pretend like you're not aware of any of this debate that's going around, like, give me a break, right? I mean,
if you don't emphasize that it's part of a like cross-country ideological discipline of educators project by the Republican Party, then you're doing a complete malpractice as a commentator, in my opinion.
And a grassroots electoral effort as well.
Well, it's grassroots, but let's also not overly credit it with that because the Koch brothers are also funding.
Okay, yes, or an attempt at
It's a new attempt at a Tea Party. It's the same thing.
Yes.
folks, there's more of what you've just saw where that came from. That's if you hit the subscribe and like button. Thank you. Really, thank you.